That's not me.
That's not me.
I've had a mate join me for some coaching recently, and mates and people you know can sometimes be the hardest people to coach because they feel that little bit more comfortable with you to maybe disregard certain instructions and challenge you a wee bit, like you're talking about football in the pub or something like that. Over the first month, made a decent start but struggled with more of the logistical aspects, shall we say. So stuff like logging sessions correctly, getting technique videos sent over, being on the ball with daily weigh-ins and food tracking and that type of thing. So when I seen them the other week, we were having a wee chat, and they said to me, you've known me for what, 25 years, and that's like literal, by the way. You know that's not me. You know that like weighing out all my food and doing all the tracking and just like doing all the kind of quote unquote boring stuff. He says, you know that's just not me as a person, and I'm probably never going to be the type of person to do that. And I know he was 100% right, and it just sort of got me thinking, there's a kind of line you need to try and toe when you're coaching anyone, not just like a pal, to try and not have them fighting against their nature and what they're willing to and not willing to do, but also try and obviously get them to kind of raise their standards and change what they've been doing that's got them in the position in the first place of not being happy with how they look, how they feel, and wanting to make a change. And it is quite a hard line to kind of toe, and again, you've maybe heard me say before that when it comes to coaching, I'm not a dictator. Like, I simply get you to tell me what you want to achieve. I say, here's the best way to achieve it and what I think you need to do. And if you tell me you're not willing to do certain things, I'm like, cool, here's probably the pros and cons of that and the consequences and what that's going to mean for your progress. And then it's up to you to make the decision. And I'll back you either way. And that's why I've got some clients that don't really track their food, don't do progress pictures, limit the amount that they weigh in, obviously do more or less sessions. And again, they're all pretty clear on, or I should be pretty clear anyway, because I've told them on what that means, and that way we can always just kind of set our expectations accordingly, and it's never going to result in them being disappointed. And as I said to my mate, I was like, cool, we can do whatever you want and operate in whatever way, but just don't come in a few months down the line and say to me, oh, I'm really raging because I thought I was going to be further along, when I've told you the certain things you would have to do to get there. And for that reason of me not being a dictator, if somebody tells me if they don't want to do something, or it becomes pretty clear to me that I've asked them to do something several times and they're just not doing it, and clearly at a point they're not willing to do it, then I'm like, cool, we don't need to do it, and we'll just work within the parameters that you set. And you still can get progress working like that way, and it probably just will slow down your rate a little bit. However, it does kind of become a hard balancing act to be like, right, okay, cool, we're going to go at your pace, around your expectations, what you're willing to do, your level of effort, essentially. The whole point of you coming into coaching is to try and raise your standards and be doing more to obviously achieve more, rather than just the same shit that you've always been doing. And there has been a few cases where people have come to me for coaching, and what they've actually just really wanted is just basically to do the same thing they've always done, really, but under the guise of you're actually being coached, and in some way, because you've got a coach there and we maybe improve certain elements, it was going to make some big massive difference. But if you're just fundamentally not willing to do pretty important things that are going to help your progress with your training, then it doesn't really matter if you've got a coach there or not. Like, you're still going to be just stuck in another 6 months' time standing around like,
Oh no, what happened?
And I think that's probably a reason why there is obviously a lot of shite coaches out there, but there's probably actually a lot of half-decent coaches in terms of their knowledge base, but they just don't actually have that ability to like coach people. And the way that I'd probably describe them is they're like a macro coach, where all they ever do is just work off the figures. It's just macros, changing macros. It's just putting numbers and percentages in a spreadsheet for like the gym. Like, there is none of that actual understanding the person, personality, their thoughts, their feelings. Again, actually coaching the person rather than just coaching the stats. When somebody first comes to me for coaching, I do like to kind of chuck them in the deep end a little bit and just be like, right, okay, be on the ball with tracking your food every single day, weigh yourself every single day, make sure you're getting your weekly pictures taken, videos of your lifts every single week, that type of thing. And the reason for that is to obviously just try and drill a habit change, but also allows me to build up the picture as quick as possible so I can make the best decisions as quick as possible. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to stay like that forever, but if somebody's like, I fucking hate tracking with all my fucking soul, which I can be a wee bit like,
Brother,
and I hate taking videos in the gym, it can be anything. And even if it's just, you know, maybe lifestyle elements, it maybe isn't the most conducive to you know, just training pretty in a standard routine and just eating chicken, broccoli and rice every single day. When I have that initial kind of picture built up, from that point, that's when I can start to relax things a little bit and work around the person's needs. Because if you kind of do we're going to do like none of that boring stuff to start with, obviously it makes my decision making process a lot harder, and it can probably feel like a bit of an ass to eventually add it in over time. So that's why I like to be quite full on at the start and then take away. But yeah, going back to the whole nature against nurture type of thing, I think when you are kind of planning on working with a coach at some point, you've kind of got to accept you can't just keep going through the same stuff that you've done forever and just expect it to be under a different guise and make a big massive change. And you are going to have to raise your standards a little bit, you are going to have to do a little bit more, you are going to have to do the stuff that's not particularly fun and enjoyable and something that you just fucking don't like doing and isn't you as a person. But that doesn't mean you're going to have to try and do it forever, because again, it comes a point where you're just farting against thunder.
It's a bit of a weird analogy.
Some things just aren't going to be you as a person, and that's fine, and you just work around those parameters. And although training's obviously a big part of my life and really important to me, and I'm pretty dedicated towards it, there is probably certain things you could pick out that I don't do and I'm probably not willing to do. And again, I just obviously adjust my parameters of expectations, results, etc. around that. And it's probably one of the biggest things I've learned over the years of being in competitive sports, that the worst thing you can ever do is try and force someone who's a square object into a round shaped hole.
What the fuck did I just hear?
And try and make them totally conform to a certain behaviour or attitude of what you think is best practice. And I think if you've ever been involved in a sport, you'll probably know that one person who has quite a bit of talent, maybe not got the best attitude, not the best trainer, maybe likes to kind of go off the handle a wee bit. It's really important that those guys get managed appropriately, so that yes, you don't just let them just run riot and just be like even worse versions of themselves they already are and develop even more of the bad traits and habits, but it's giving them that little bit of leeway and just playing into their personality, giving them that wee bit of rope or whatever the fucking saying is, and just allowing them to just be themselves. Pair that off with raising the standards a wee bit, and you should be able to keep them on side and actually get them in a really good place. I feel like I'm just sort of rambling with not too much purpose at this point, and as I say, this has been on my mind for the last couple of weeks, and I just wanted to come here and talk about it. And I suppose the take-home message would be that if you are going to sign up for coaching, I think any good coach will obviously make you just up your game that little bit, however, not try and like totally change who you are as a person. And again, it's a hard balance to kind of find sometimes, but if you've got a coach that actually knows how to deal with people and isn't just a macro coach, should be able to make it work. So I'll probably just leave it there. All the usual stuff is in the description below, including my new free grappling training program. If you are a grappler who's watching me, or started watching me, or whatever, you have a free 2-day and 3-day a week plan in the description below. No strings attached, just go and download it. There's a few other cool stuff down there, like my mailing list for my Carnage emails, that tends to be the stuff that I don't say on social media because it would probably get me cancelled, and coaching inquiry form if again coaching's something that you are interested in. Pre-workout burps today rather than shites, but probably one of them's coming too. But I'll leave it there and I'll catch you soon.